So let's do the step 4, which is create WP Cloud Run, WordPress Cloud Run service. So I'm going to go to the console and now I'm going to go to Cloud Run and I will click on Cloud Run. And here, I just realized before I want to deploy a container and I want to create a service. But before that, I just realized that before we were creating our container with the push flag being disabled. So go run like this. And this only created the container locally and it never pushed it to the artifact registry. So what we want to do here now is run it without any flags. And as it was said in the README, now it's going to build the container, which is already cached, and it's going to push it to the artifacts registry because we don't have anything any images there yet. And so image has been built successfully, and now it's going to push it to the container registry. So let's give it a moment or two. And we can see now it's pushing the image. And now any moment it should tell us that the image has been pushed. And if I switch over to the browser, and if I go to our repository, we can see our image has just been pushed. So let's go back to deploy. We want a service in this case. We don't want a job because it's going to be a continuous thing. And here we will select the container image URL as the one that was just pushed to our registry, artifacts registry, and this is our image. I'm happy with this name, and as I said, I'm deploying everything to the WordPress 4, so I'll select that. And this is the part you should pay attention to because I'm allowing unauthenticated invocations. So now it's open to the public internet. I'm not configuring anything Cloud IAM, and this is the part where you need DDoS protection. Is something I will be talking about later, how to secure it. So you don't have your costs, which just go beyond any limits or what you envision them to be. For the CPU allocation and pricing, we'll only allocate during the requests. So this is the cool part about a Cloud Run, where it's not always allocated the CPU, it's only allocated when it's needed. And with that, I will select it to the minimum number of instances to be 0. So if there is no traffic, just let it scale down to 0 as it doesn't even exist. And I will leave ingress control to all for now. And I'll in containers, since our container is running on port 80, I will change it to port 80. And this is the, oh yeah, and I'm going to set it to be 1 gigabyte because I know it needs this much for WordPress. Otherwise, we'll just get warnings that it's not running as this should be running. And here, as part of the variables and secrets, so this is the part where I was saying that everything should be referenced here. So, for example, let's fill these out. So I will select this one because I know it's needed for the cloud, and I'll add it here. This is the value and variable. Oh, I copied the whole thing. And I'll pause the video until I quickly fill these out. So now I've filled them all out, and you can see what they all look like. And again, I've referred to the values that I have as part of the end file. And once I'm happy with this, I'm going to go and click Done. And I'll leave the request to the default and execution environment. I'll leave it as default, although we will need it to be running as part of the second generation because we will need to use networking as all of our stuff will be in the buckets. But it's smart enough to figure this out on its own. And revision auto scaling, so the number of minimum number of instances is 0. I'll select it to maximum 5. And startup CPU boost. You would normally need this, but I will optimize the performance using the CDN and Cloudflare and all other things. we won't even need this because otherwise this will incur, well, very small additional costs. So disable that. And very important thing is Cloud SQL connections, because we created a Cloud SQL instance. So now we want to connect it. So here I'll need to enable the API so we can fetch to which SQL instance it needs to use. So let's, okay, it already finished. And now we can select our instance that we created in the previous step. And this is it, I believe, except I want to see if we have a health check set up, which is where? Yeah, the health check, which is actually going to be under container and under settings. So this is where I missed it. So this is an important thing, as it can, well, I'm not going to get into it, but you can read all about it. But I will define it and I'll set the minimum values. Otherwise, it can really take a while, and it can, yeah, prolong your deployment. So I'm going to set it to 15, 30. You can read more about this later. 5, and timeout can also be 15 seconds. And I'll add that. And I think this is it. We're ready to do our first deploy. So let's create our service. I'm going to click on create. One way to see if I missed anything. So let's give it a second. This will take a bit longer the first time around, but then it will be much faster. So let's give it a few seconds. And it was actually much faster. So moment of truth, I can click on our URL and see what happens. And we have our installation menu, which is a great sign. So here I'm just going to click on continue. I'll save the test. I'll select admin. Since everyone can access this, I'll use my the super secure change me password we have here. I'll confirm to use the weak password. That's fine. And I'll actually use my real email in this case, and I'll discourage search engines to access this. So install, and now it's gonna, that's it. So now we can go in and log in. So it's gonna be admin and change me. I'll click on remember me, and I'll click on the log in. And this is the same WordPress instance that you can see that it's running just as it was with the local deployment. Literally the same thing. So let's move on to the next step. So in the next step, I'm going to configure VPC egress and send traffic to a VPC network for low latency with Cloud SQL WordPress database, and connecting to using private IP, because now we're using the public IP. So let's go to our MySQL instance, and I will click edit here. And now I'm going to go to the connections, because public IP is enabled, as you can see, and I will select private IP, and I'll deselect the public IP, and I'll create to use the default network. And set up connection, and I'll enable the API. I'll move, I think this way you can see what's happening here. So create a range. I'll allocate a new IP range, and in this case, instead of setting it up manually, I'll just use an automatically allocated IP range here. And I'm going to click on continue. And this is it. I'm just going to click on create connection. If I remember correctly, this is going to take a while, because now we will need to reconfigure our whole SQL instance. So let's give it some time for this to complete. So once this is done, we can now see that it's using a private IP. And I'm just going to click on Save Changes. And this is the part where now it's editing the whole instance. And this is the part that will take a while. So I'm just gonna pause the video and I'll let it finish. So once this is done, all I need to do is go to the instance, the Cloud Run instance, of course, which is here, and I'm gonna edit the redeploy a new revision. And in networking part, now I can select, I want to keep the session affinity just so I doesn't constantly keep logging me out. And what we need to do now is connect a VPC for outbound traffic. And I'm going to click on that. So now it's going to send traffic directly to a VPC, and it's going to be using the default networks it created. And I can also select to route only requests to private IPs to the VPCs, and I'm ready to serve this revision immediately. This is it. So now I'm going to deploy it, and now after it's redeployed, all of our access should be coming privately, and it's not being exposed through public endpoints. So let's see how that works out, if it works out as I imagined it to work. So it's 100%. And if I click on our URL here, this is it. We have our instance. All right, this concludes this step. So let's move on to the next one.